All right, man, peace. So we all knew that it had to happen. When I say it, I'm referring to the decimation of the Cleveland Cavaliers roster. They had to do it to appease and obey LeBron James. First off, is what's best for him, is what's best for the franchise, and it's also what's best for the league. I guarantee you that Adam Silver spoke to the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers and let him know that no, you're not going to finish this season out with your franchise, with our marquee player on your franchise looking buffoonish. You may not make the finals, but you're not going to finish your season not trying to make your team as good as it can be. I'm sure that Adam Silver or one of his representatives spoke to Dan Gilbert about that issue, because that would not have been good for business for the NBA, for LeBron James to continue to be basically tanking the season, which is what he was doing for the last month or so, particularly since Isaiah Thomas came back, because of his depression and his resentment at Dan Gilbert not obeying him. Well, anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Want to get right into it? Let's do it. The Cavs back in it to win it. GM Kobe Altman said his main objective was to alter the chemistry of a team that was no longer playing with joy. So here's the deal. In the span of a little more than an hour, the Cavs traded 6 players and a first-round pick to 4 teams in 3 separate deals for 4 new players.
And this is what you call addition by subtraction. This is a very, very good move for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's not going to be good enough for them to win the finals. It probably still won't be good enough for them to get out of the Eastern Conference. That is if everything is how it should be and LeBron James is not the transcendent player that he's been in the past. I will still give them the edge. I'll give them about a 60 to 65% advantage over the other teams in the Eastern Conference to get out, just out of respect for LeBron, what he's accomplished and what he still clearly can do. But do I believe that they're the best team in the Eastern Conference? No. I believe that the Boston Celtics are the best team right now in the Eastern Conference by a smidgen over Toronto. But the playoffs are a different animal. You're getting 1 to 2 days rest in between games. And with that type of an advantage, that is when LeBron James will shine in the East. So we'll see.
Adding George Hill, Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, and Larry Nance Jr., the Cavs parted ways with Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Channing Frye, Dwyane Wade, Amon Shumpert, Derrick Rose, and their own 2018 first-round picks.
This is one of those rare trades that really works out for everybody, particularly in regards to the Cleveland Cavaliers and the LA Lakers. Truly, the only player that I can verifiably see is not going to win out in this trade is most likely going to be Isaiah Thomas. And it seems as if Magic Johnson was able to smooth things over with him. And Magic is a very charming person, so I'm sure that he let Isaiah Thomas know that he's going to get a fair shake. He's going to get a chance to shine and show what he can do. And he will be working in tandem with Lonzo Ball. He'll most likely be able to play on the court at the same time as Lonzo, because Isaiah Thomas doesn't want to play point guard anyway. He wants to shoot the rock. So they're going to bring Lonzo in, have him play the point, and just feed Isaiah. Isaiah will probably get 30 to 33 minutes a game, try to build up his legs, see if he can approximate what he was last year in his last year with the Celtics, and then just ship him out and say good luck. In regards to Cleveland, they got younger, they got faster, but they got far less experienced. But these are the type of players that LeBron James needs. Young guys who can run and jump, shoot a little bit, and who are not going to feel like they have to play for a certain contract or show what they can do, other than Jordan Clarkson, that is. He's certainly going to be trying to play for a contract, but due to the fact that he'll be playing with LeBron, a lot of that will be nullified. We'll definitely see what happens.
Stephen A. Smith, did the Cavs make the right moves?
Without question, they did. It was a great, great day for Kobe Altman. You didn't get a superstar to join them, but you got something better. You got a multitude of parts that helps this team.
And I told you guys the Lakers were going to dump Clarkson. Him and Julius Randle were very obviously offended by Lonzo Ball, and they were going out of their way to be dismissive and disrespectful towards him.
They became younger. They became better defensively. They became more athletic. And more importantly than that, everybody that they brought to the table is devoid of drama. Rodney Hood plays his role. He's a streaky shooter. He's also a lengthy defender. You got George Hill, who's experienced. He's savvy. relatively quiet, by the way, just goes out there and does his job. And by the way, is one of the best three-point shooters in the game right now. You look at Larry Nance Jr., a young, athletic, front court player that can give you what he gives you. And then, of course, Jordan Clarkson, who doesn't need anybody to help him get a shot. He's capable of making a shot.
The problem with Jordan's going to be, can he assist LeBron in moving the ball and initiating the offense?
There are no superstars amongst this bunch. You've got that in LeBron James. But what you have is a bunch of supplementary parts that elevates them because it gives them depth. It allows them to spell for him and others. And more importantly, they defend and they are devoid of drama. It's a bad day for Isaiah Thomas. We'll get into that for, a little bit later on in the show.
Well, they're devoid of drama for now. You never know what can happen when they get sucked into the LeBron James rabbit hole. They could be fighting like cats and dogs by April. Who the hell knows?
But you also ridded the Cavaliers of two things, Max, that is very, very important to point out here.
What the hell is LeBron patting down? Somebody please tell me. What the hell is that man patting down? He better stop before all that makeup on the top of his head come off.
When Kevin Love, all of that noise was going down about Kevin Love or whatever, Isaiah Thomas was one of the people that instigated it and spoke out against it when Kevin Love was going from the locker room. On top of all of that, he was complaining about his shots. He was complaining about the coaching. He was complaining about a few things according to folks there.
Yeah, he was complaining so that he can get the hell up out of there. I truly think that he realized that he had to force a trade in some type of way. And if that meant that he had to develop a rapport with Dan Gilbert, maybe put a bug in Dan Gilbert's ear to trade him in exchange for providing information on what LeBron was saying about him in the locker room, that's what he was going to do.
And so you looked at Kobe Altman, or you heard Kobe Altman said the culture was a concern. That's one of the things that they're alluding to. The other thing that they're alluding to, and we can't say this enough because it's one of those situations, Max, and we'll get into this later on in the show. Dwyane Wade being gone is a huge deal. His relationship with LeBron, it's not that they did anything wrong to anybody. It's that they're so tight that the tight-knit relationship that LeBron James was supposedly cultivating with other guys, once Dwyane Wade came, that fell by the wayside.
Hey, didn't I tell you guys when they first signed Dwyane Wade that they were going to do so because he was going to act as a mental support system for LeBron James? I told you guys that, and I also told you that the reason for the animosity between Dwyane Wade and J.R. Smith, at least the one-way animosity, was because J.R. Smith was jealous. He thought that he was a real friend of LeBron. He came to find out that he was only a workplace friend. That was traumatizing for JR. Like, Dwyane Wade is a real friend of LeBron's. Like, real friend. J.R. Smith is the guy that LeBron says, hey, let's go to the fight. Let's go watch Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. And JR thinks he has a friend, and he really doesn't. He's equivalent to the friendship, quote-unquote friendship, between Floyd Mayweather and Adrian Broner. That's not really Floyd's friend. He just lets Broner tag along because he sees that Adrian Broner is an idolater. Same thing with J.R. Smith. LeBron understands that J.R. Smith is there, much like a king's court. He has the retinue in his court who are there to tell the king how great he looks, how nice his crown shines, how the fur that he's wearing looks fresh. No, he's basically part of LeBron's entourage. That's what J.R. was, and he did not quite realize that. He thought that he was actually LeBron's friend. And when he saw how LeBron was interacting with D. Wade, as one would an actual friend, like one would a peer, right? Because D. Wade is in LeBron's peer group. That is his peer. Then he said, oh, wow, I'm really not LeBron's friend because he doesn't treat me like this.
And that suffered, and it disjointed the team. Dwyane Wade and LeBron James didn't do anything intentionally, per se, but their relationship quelled or minimized all the other relationships that LeBron had built on the team, which also contributed to division. So the absence of Dwyane Wade, the absence of Isaiah Thomas, along with the addition of these players, I believe has elevated the Cleveland Cavaliers to being the clear favorites to coming out of the Eastern Conference now. There is so much.
Well, I wouldn't call them the clear favorites. I would still make them the favorites. I honestly don't think that they're any more the favorites than they would have been had their previous team been mentally functional and not been looking to propagate or maintain their own personal agenda.
Much here. Let me start by saying I identified Wade as the problem when this all first started, right? When everything hit the fan, I thought, Dwyane Wade, LeBron James, what does that relationship do? It isolates LeBron because that's going to be his ace, the guy he talks to. It will separate him from his teammates, whatever Wade's intentions. In fact, at the time, I believe I said the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
But I want to start with what they got. Larry Nance Jr. is a guy who can finish at the rim. He will dive on the floor for loose balls. He is a willing defender and a guy who can run the floor.
Well, the issue with Larry Nance is going to be basically this. Will he be willing to spell LeBron and trying to guard Kevin Durant? Because that's basically what this comes down to. Because they're not going to need him to try to guard anyone down in a low post. They're not going to ask him to guard Zaza Pachulia. But can you guard Kevin Durant? That's what that's basically going to come down to.
Jordan Clarkson is an overrated player. And he's the type of player who gets overrated because he can do a lot of things. He can get his own shot. He can shoot. He's built like a defender. But when you really look closely, like if you squint, you see a really good player. If you look closely, you see a useful player. I think Jordan Clarkson can be the third guard in a rotation on a good team because he can get his own shot. He can get you into your offense. And he can shoot well enough. Not as a starter. If you're going to give him 35 minutes, I don't think you're going to be a very good team. But as an all-purpose guard off the bench, that's a good pickup. Rodney Hood is good, and he should be getting better. He's a guy with good upside, and LeBron needs at least one other guy on the team who could take someone off the dribble. He's really not there yet, but he looks like he could get there.
Well, Rodney Hood is a streak shooter. That's what he is. He'll win a game for you in the playoffs. Going 7 for 13 from 3 and scoring 35 points. Him and LeBron will make up some silly high five and, all that tomfoolery that LeBron likes.
Threes.
He can shoot threes, and he's also built like a defender, even though he's not a great defender, but he's built like you think that Rodney Hood can be a good player going forward. He's 25 years old. And George Hill, Stephen A. reminds me of the kind of point guard that you used to want to pair Michael Jordan with, right? A big, strong defender can defend two positions in the backcourt, shoot from the outside, and doesn't need the ball. He can play off ball. It's exactly the kind of guy LeBron could use in the backcourt, provided there's one other guy who can score. Like, if in an ideal world, Rodney Hood could take you off the dribble and do all those things at an elite level. He can't. It's not an ideal world. But that's what they get. They get youthful energy, guys who can run the floor and fit better. They're better fitting parts. What did they lose? This is addition by subtraction.
I agree with that. Just getting a lot of those guys out of the locker room will help LeBron James' psyche, and that's really what it was all about. Let's be for real. Dan Gilbert knows that this team is not going to win a championship. He also knows that LeBron James is most likely not going to stay with Cleveland. But he had to make this move. Why? Because it's what's best for the NBA. That's why I believe that Adam Silver contacted him and told him, look, I know that you and LeBron have this thing going, but if you think that you're going to get to the All-Star break and keep that team intact and make a mockery of our marquee player, the best player in our league, the person who we've hitched our star to, the person who we're trying to create a narrative that he's as good as Michael Jordan, you better think again. We need some type of drama coming into the playoffs. And we cannot get to the Eastern Conference Finals and have it be John Wall versus Kyrie or Kyle Lowry versus Kyrie. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. But it's not going to be, because we did not do our best to get LeBron James there. We have to get LeBron there. And Dan Gilbert was made to understand that, yes, you're going to make this trade because it's what's best for the NBA. We don't care about the issues that you're having with LeBron. Adam Silver was probably like, I have LeBron on the other line. He just called me and said, Daddy, I need help. So I'm calling you now to tell you you're going to make that trade.
It's a great deal for the Cavs this way. First, obviously, Isaiah Thomas didn't fit in. And what a fall from grace for Isaiah Thomas in terms of public perception. You think about where he was when he wrote that Players Tribune piece, which was unbelievable. The passing of his sister, the fact that he played like maybe the greatest pound-for-pound athlete in the history of American team sports, a 5'7" guy in the NBA that selects out for height as a top 5 MVP candidate. It was insane. He played with so much heart. They embraced him in Boston. He led a playoff run.
I'm already on record as stating that he probably had the greatest single season of any player of his stature in NBA history. You could probably count a couple of seasons that Calvin Murphy had, but other than that, the season that Isaiah Thomas had in 2016, 2017 is one of the great seasons for a player of his stature in NBA history.
And now to this, where it turns out no one in Cleveland wanted him there, apparently, and he gets moved. I mean, they got rid of him as soon as they could. At the trade deadline, they unloaded his salary.
Yeah, he was trying to force a trade. He was trying to work in concert with Dan Gilbert. I believe that he was a plant in that locker room. Someone who was providing information for Dan Gilbert. That's why LeBron James put the crosshairs on his ass. I said, oh, no, we got to get you out of here because you're trying to get involved in too much shit that does not concern you. You're only here for the moment. You're not going to be back after this season. I can't have you here running around trying to start shit with Kevin Love and other players in the locker room. You're trying to run back to Dan Gilbert and tell him things that I said. You're confiding in him. You guys exchanging text messages. And I think that for Isaiah Thomas's part, he didn't care because he felt like he had nothing to lose. He understood something that I touched on before the season, which is that he's not going to have the same role on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Him and LeBron are going to butt heads over who's going to control the basketball. Isaiah Thomas has a lot to lose in his mind. He still hasn't realized that, no, you're not going to get that max deal, Isaiah Thomas. It's never going to happen. I could have told you that before the season. So he also worked in concert to try to get his own ass traded.
And now his agent's tweeting about, he must start it. Just look, I think the biggest addition by subtraction, Stephen A., Dwyane Wade. It's not just that Derrick Rose and Wade and all these guys are misfit parts and older guys and not athletic anymore and all this. You can't isolate LeBron right now. LeBron's genius has always been his ability to uplift those around him and bring them along with him. And if Wade is isolating him, it doesn't matter what the intentions are, and LeBron's not able to be the teammate he needs to be, that's a killer for the Cavs. They had to get rid of Wade.
Well, I agree that they did have to get rid of Dwyane Wade, but I think that they had to get rid of him because LeBron understands that he doesn't want his friend Dwyane Wade to get blamed for whatever happens in Cleveland. I think that LeBron James understands that he owes a lot of his legacy to Dwyane Wade. And a testament to their true brotherhood and their friendship is that he most likely told Dwyane, look, you have to go. And, according to his testimony, he did not know about the trade when D-Wade came and asked him. I have a hard time believing that. But I think in LeBron's mind, he said to himself, we have to get D-Wade out of here because we cannot rekindle that magic that we had down in Miami. And I don't want him to be blamed when this ship goes down, as it will. LeBron is playing this role to the hilt right now. He knows that what's best for him is to play out this season. Whatever happens, happens. Put up the best numbers that he can put up, and then leave and say, I did my best. He knows that had he given in and took off his no trade clause, allowed himself to be traded, Dan Gilbert would have been able to not only get assets back for him, which he does not want. He wants the team to go into the dumps after he leaves. The last thing that LeBron wants is for anybody who leaves him to do well. So in order to ensure that, he has to play out the season, act like he's a good soldier and that he, quote unquote, loves his teammates, go to another team, leave Dan Gilbert with nothing other than a draft pick, which is basically just, a faint chance that you might hit on a great player. Go to another team and hope for the best and look back and hope that the Cavaliers are burning to the ground. That's what this is all about. That's why I say these trades, they worked out basically for everybody. No, not so much for Isaiah Thomas, but even him to a certain degree, because wherever he's going, he's better off there than he is in Cleveland.
The only thing that I would say about it, and I'm sure we'll get into a conversation about LeBron James, obviously, but you keep talking about how he uplifts the people around him. I need to clarify that in this regard. LeBron James is great at being a guy that has lesser talent around him, where everyone knows their roles and their job, and he uplifts them based on his presence, what he brings to the table, his finishing ability, etc., etc. That's where he's great at.
Yes, in other words, Stephen A. is finally stating what I've been stating for a while, which is that LeBron is great in the LeBron James system. Every player that comes to play with him, they have to be plugged in. You're not going to come to play with LeBron James and play your style of basketball. That's why I stated he would not fit in with the Golden State Warriors. He just wouldn't. He tried to go there and he would have to replace Draymond, because LeBron James is literally Draymond Green on steroids. That's basically what he is. He's a jack of all trades, except he's also like a supernova turning into a black hole. He's the brightest thing on the court, and he sucks everything into him. So he would not fit on the Golden State Warriors at all.
But if you are a player that's trying to find yourself, and you're trying to elevate your cachet, and you're trying to go out on the court there and be more than what you are, like some great players strive to do. Sometimes LeBron gets in the way of that. One of the things you never mention is the fact that there are an abundance of people who have played with LeBron James, or an abundance of people who watch LeBron James play, and they talk about how his ability hinders the abilities of others. Because he's so great, you have to eat it. You have to accept it.
I don't see it that way.
No, I didn't say you said it. I didn't say you see it that
what
way.
I mean
I know you don't see it that way. I'm telling you.
I'd like to address that point.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm giving it to you to address. You have people in the league who scout, who watch, who study, who have to go up against this man. And you also have people who have played with them, who quietly talk about how he curtails what they bring to the table.
LeBron will curtail what you do individually. But if you're magnanimous enough and giving enough to be a supporting character in the LeBron James stage play, then yes, you'll get the standing ovation at the end because you're going to win a championship. Right? You'll get that Tony Award. But if you're going to come there and try to upstage him, it's not going to happen. So you have to be willing and ready and able. If Kobe Bryant came to play with LeBron James, Kobe in his prime, he would have to play the role of J.R. Smith. Like, he literally would not be able to be Kobe Bryant. When Shaq came to play with LeBron, even though he was an old man, even Shaq as a young man would have basically had to play the same role. You're the new Zydrunas Ilgauskas. That's how single-minded and, singularly focused LeBron James is in his style of play. Having the ball dribbling at the top of the key, at the top of the three-point line, and just surveying the floor. He does the same thing over and over and over again. That is why it's easy for intelligent teams to defend him.
The latest and greatest example has been Kyrie, because we see what he's doing in Boston, and we say, okay, he was a scorer in Cleveland, but he was desperate to prove that he was more than that.
Sometimes, like, you don't need to swat. It's a Woody Allen line from back in the day. I forgot which movie. You don't need to swat a fly with a Buick, right? You just need a fly swatter. Sometimes LeBron James can swat a fly with a Buick. Like Kyrie can do so much more, obviously, than he was doing for the Cavs. So I agree that LeBron can hinder one's individual shine and light and stats and those kind of things. But I disagree that LeBron makes the unit less than the sum of its parts. I believe LeBron,
I don't believe that Stephen A. said that LeBron makes the unit less than the sum of his parts. He actually said the opposite. He said that what makes each individual part great is going to be lessened once they succumb to the understanding that they have to become part of that collective. That's actually what Stephen A. said, Max.
He basically acts as the coach and deploys the different resources he has to optimize the team play. So Kyrie's stats suffer, but they win a championship.
Yeah, but it's important that you recognize what I believe you're missing.
Actually, Kyrie's stats didn't suffer. Kyrie actually had better individual stats, at least last season, than he has thus far this season, for the most part, even though they're kind of balancing out. But I think that Kyrie's a much better player this year, so his proficiency numbers are going to be up, plus he's playing in a better system. But Kyrie was not necessarily marginalized from a scoring standpoint when he was with LeBron. He was marginalized from the standpoint that he could not engage in approaching and attacking the fullness of his potential as an overall basketball player. Because once again, he was a cog in the machine of the LeBron James system. Some of these other channels like Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, they have these debates about LeBron and Tom Brady. LeBron is not the Tom Brady of basketball. LeBron is closer to being the Peyton Manning of basketball, because Peyton was the same way as LeBron. Everything with Peyton Manning was the Peyton Manning system. He basically was his own offensive coordinator. And you saw what happened when Gary Kubiak came in and changed the system up. Peyton's numbers went down drastically. And part of it was that he was old, yeah, but part of it also was that once Peyton saw that he did not have the control that he was used to and accustomed to, because he is a control freak just like LeBron, once he saw that, mentally he kind of wasn't the same guy. And you would see that with LeBron. If LeBron went to play for a Popovich or someone else, they would have to change their system for him. And that really is something that Popovich will probably be willing to do. He would change over some of his sets on the San Antonio Spurs to suit LeBron. I have no doubt about that. But that's who LeBron is for the NBA. He's the Peyton Manning of the NBA, not the Tom Brady. The Tom Brady of the NBA was Tim Duncan.
And despite the fact that you're right with what you're saying, yes, collectively they come together and they're better because of LeBron. But what does he cost them along the way?
Maybe some money.
While they're playing with him. Because you have to remember, Kyrie had to go into the office and demand a trade upon finding out that they were about to try and trade him to Phoenix for Eric Bledsoe, okay? And ultimately Paul George. You have a situation where he ultimately costs guys, and they have to end up going elsewhere before people appreciate that, and nobody mentions that from time to time when it comes to LeBron.
Yeah, but the Cavs rejuvenated this season, and they maintain flexibility for the future, whether LeBron stays or goes. But
yes, they do, but it's going to be very, very short-lived. What's going on with the Cavs is kind of like someone who is passed out in the street, and they come and they give them the defibrillator. The defibrillator is just giving them a shock. It's not going to make them healthy necessarily. But we'll see. This is going to be the opportunity for LeBron to start from scratch. Do I think that it's going to work in the long run? No, I don't. I still give him the respect that he deserves for his accomplishments, to state that I make them the favorites to come out the East. But I hope to see Boston come out the East, because I believe that they're going to give the Warriors a much, much better series than Cleveland would. Cleveland has no diversity to their style of play, and it's going to show. If they play the Warriors, somewhere after game 2, LeBron's going to give up and he's going to revert to stat chasing mode. So we will certainly see what happens. Peace.